Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel English Lovers. I am Dr. Yashwant Handibag. Friends, if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe it and press the bell icon to get notifications of new videos. Also, like and share the videos. Friends, today we are going to study comparison of adjectives. There are three degrees of comparison: positive degree, comparative degree, and superlative degree. There are two ways of forming these degrees of comparison. Number one, by adding er and est to the positive. Number two, by using more and most before the positive. Friends, we are going to study how there are different ways of forming these degrees of comparison. So there are some rules that we need to remember in order to learn these degrees of comparison. Because if we know these rules, then we can change the adjective from positive degree to comparative and to superlative. So let us see these ways of forming degrees of comparison. So the first is adjectives of one syllable and a few adjectives of two syllables which do not end in e, add er and est to the positive. Now remember, this is the most common rule that we use in order to form comparative and superlative degrees. So here are some examples. For example, long, longer, longest, soft, softer, softest, high, higher, highest, young, younger, youngest, clever, cleverer, cleverest. Now in all these examples, you can see that these adjectives, they do not end in e, that is, all these adjectives, they do not have e at the last in their spellings, so they take er in order to form comparative degree and est in order to form superlative degree. So this is the first rule of forming comparisons of adjectives. Now, when the positive ends in e, only r and est are added to the positive degree in order to form comparative and superlative. So you can see the words or adjectives large, pure, and true, all they end in e. So there is a e in their spelling, and you can see that their comparative is formed by adding only r and superlative is formed by adding only st. So large, larger, largest, pure, purer, purest, true, truer, truest. So here is the next rule. Adjectives ending in a single consonant, especially d, t, m or n, preceded by a vowel, double the final consonant before adding er and est. So here there is er and est to the positive in order to form comparative and superlative, but there is one rule that is followed here. So all these adjectives, hot, slim, sad, thin, dim and fat, they end with consonant, that is t, m, d, n, m, t, and before that consonant there is vowel, that is o, I, a, I, a. So what's the rule? The rule is that you double the last consonant and then add er and est. So you can see hot, hotter, hottest, slim, slimmer, slimmest, sad, sadder, saddest, thin, thinner, thinnest, dim, dimmer, dimmest, fat, fatter, fattest. The next is adjectives ending in y preceded by a consonant change y into I before adding er and est. So er and est is there, but what happens here, that when there is y at the end of the adjective, that y changes into I and then it takes er and est. So you can see in all these adjectives there is y at the end, and that y is changed into I, and er and est are added. So dry, drier, driest; holy, holier, holiest; silly, sillier, silliest; lovely, lovelier, loveliest; jolly, jollier, jolliest. So here y is changed into I, and then er and est. But if the y is preceded by a vowel, it is not changed into I. So in the last rule, we have seen that y is changed into I, and then er and est is added. But here you can see that when that y is preceded, that is when there is any vowel before that y, so here a and here e, they are the vowel, so they are not changed, or this y is not changed into I, and directly er and est is added. So gay, gare, guest; grey, grayer, grayest. Most adjectives of 2 syllables and all adjectives of more than 2 syllables take more and most before them to form the comparative and superlative degrees. So here these adjectives in positive degree: difficult, honest, profound, fruitful, and splendid, they either have 2 syllables or more than 2 syllables, and they take more in order to form comparative degree and most in order to form superlative degree. So difficult, more difficult, most difficult; honest, more honest, most honest; profound, more profound, most profound; fruitful, more fruitful, most fruitful; splendid, more splendid, most splendid. So more and most is taken when the adjective has either 2 syllables or more than 2 syllables. The next is irregular comparison. Now what is irregular comparison? There are some adjectives in English which have different forms in comparative and superlative. They do not follow the rules of er and est and the rules of more and most. So some adjectives have a superlative ending in most and a comparative which is more or less regular. So the comparative form of these adjectives is more or less regular or no comparative at all. So here you can see that adjectives eastern. Now this adjective eastern, it doesn't have any form in comparative, and in superlative it has easternmost. Next is for. In positive it is for, in comparative it is former, and in superlative it is foremost or first. Then hind. In positive it is hind, in comparative it is hinder, and in superlative it is hindmost. Next is in. In positive it is in comparative inner, in superlative there are 2 forms and they are inmost and innermost. The next is northern. There is no comparative form to this adjective and the superlative form is northernmost. The next is out. In positive, the comparative form of out is, there are 2 forms, one is outer and the other is utter, and the superlative forms are outermost, uttermost, and utmost. So it has 3 superlative forms. The next is southern. So it has no comparative form and the superlative form is southernmost. The next is top. In positive degree there is no comparative to this and the superlative form is topmost. The next is up, which has comparative form as upper and the superlative form as uppermost. And the last is western, which has no comparative form and the superlative form is westernmost. There are some adjectives in English language which have comparatives and superlatives of different roots. That is, altogether different word is there in order to form comparative and superlative form. So for example, for, further, furthest. So here you can see that for there is totally different word in comparative and totally different word in superlative, that is furthest. In the same way, there is this adjective bad or ill, and the comparative form is worse and the superlative form is worst. So worse and worst are totally different words than bad or ill. Then there is good in positive form, there is better in comparative, and in superlative it has the form as best. Then little, less is comparative, lesser is another form in comparative, and least is the superlative. In the same way, there are these adjectives much or many, and its comparative form is more and its superlative form is most. So you can see that all these adjectives for, bad, ill, good, little, much, many, so they have altogether different words in their comparative and superlative forms. There are some comparative adjectives derived from Latin which are followed by to and not than. So examples of such adjectives which have been derived from Latin, they are inferior. This cloth is inferior to the other one there. So here inferior is an adjective derived from Latin and it uses to and not than. Next is superior. Japanese cameras are superior to those made in China. Here also superior is an adjective and to is used with this. It is comparison. Next is junior. Mr. Sharma is very considerate to those junior to him. So here also junior is an adjective and it uses the form to and not than. Next is senior. Mr. Mukherjee is senior to all others on the staff. Senior is an adjective, Latin adjective, and it uses to and not than in comparative. Next is prior. Mr. Kadam visited us prior to his departure for England. Here also prior is a Latin adjective which uses to and not than in order to form the comparative degree. So friends, this is all about comparison of adjectives. I hope that you have enjoyed this lecture. Friends, please like this video, also share this video with your friends and let me know about your comments in the comment box below. So friends, happy learning. Thank you.